The Exorcism of Roland Doe. Roland Doe and the chilling true story of the Exorcist. Was the exorcism of Roland Doe real? The Exorcism of Roland Doe, episode 23, Haunted. The truth behind the exorcism of Roland Doe. I mean, if an article says the truth, I mean, they've got to be telling the truth, right? People don't lie on the internet at all.
Forgive me, Father, for my sins. Forgive me, Father, for
Hi, friends. What are you doing? How are you doing? Did you come in here for a little spooky chat? You did. You didn't come here for rainbows and butterflies. I'm not stupid. I was born at night, but it wasn't last night. Now I want you to prepare yourselves, because I don't want to see a situation like the mass hysteria that happened in the 1970s as we talk about the subject that I'm about to broach. Are you ready? Okay, I know you've seen this movie, and if you haven't, you at least know of it. You see this? Who's this? I know you guys know what that is. You're not gonna let me down, you little freaks. It's Linda Blair from The Exorcist, the movie that was hailed as the scariest film of all times. This is her 3 years ago. This is me. This is my cousin Christina. Inside Christina's belly is my other cousin, Scarlett. I guess it'd be second cousin, I don't know. Anyways, Christina was as pregnant gets. Now I know you're thinking, like, pregnant as pregnant gets? I mean that she could have literally given birth to this child on the floor of the convention. I borrowed my dad's other wheelchair and I rolled her around in the convention, pregnant and all, because she's my horror buddy, and it was sort of our theme. And we wanted the baby to be a horror baby too. So if you were in the Atlanta area around February 3 years ago, at the Days of the Dead convention, and your ankles kept getting hit by someone in a wheelchair, or by someone pushing a wheelchair that had a pregnant woman in it, I'm sorry. I really am. I hope you've healed. I didn't want to hit you. I don't even have good coordination for myself, so pushing another person who was carrying another person, I should have known that was a daunting task. Back on topic now. The Exorcist, starring Linda Blair. She was just a child when this movie filmed, and it was about a little girl whose mother was an actress. They were living, I think, in the DC area, perhaps Boston. I can't remember. She became possessed by a demon, and the whole movie is just like watching the progression of this possession. Say that with me. Progression of this possession. Faster. Progression of this possession. Progression of this possession. Progression of this possession. Apparently this movie was so scary and so disturbing that people were just doing the absolute most. They were like passing out in the aisles and fainting like they had some kind of dignity. Like, you wouldn't be here watching this if you didn't have a sick side. What about the previews made you think it was a fairy tale? What? There were even reports of people being possessed because of watching the movie. I wish that's all it took. Personally, I think that demon possession is a win-win-win for everybody involved if you think about it. The devil and his demons get to have some fun in a human body. The name of Jesus and God gets exalted on high, and the person gets to blame whatever bad behavior they did on being demon possessed. I mean, it's a win-win-win. Sign me up for it, for God's sake. I would love for anybody to take control of my thoughts and just sort of blanket my real consciousness in darkness for a little while, just so I can escape this horrible nightmare we call reality. I say that, but the karma train's probably going to come and back over my ass later. Y'all ever heard of the karma train? Have you ever been backed over by the karma train and then run over and backed over again? Yeah, so I'm pretty much asking to be demonically possessed. I take responsibility. I take full responsibility if I do get possessed. It's my fault. My bad. But honestly, what would be the fun of possessing me? Just random questions. What would be the fun of it? I don't really go to church. I don't really subscribe to any one religion. I already believe in the crap. I cuss, I smoke, drink, I meddle, I instigate. So it's not like you're gonna be corrupting a perfect soul. It would take all the fun out of possession. If I was gonna possess somebody, I would get like the most innocent person I could find. And it's just logic. It's just logic. Anyways, the movie was a horror success and is still one of the top rated scary movies of our time. Even though I've been desensitized, I'll give it that much. But what a lot of people don't know is that The Exorcist was actually based on a true story. And William Peter Blatty wrote the book The Exorcist, and the movie was adapted from that. But what people don't know is that William Peter Blatty got the idea from a true story. Do you guys want to jump into it? Do you guys want to know? You guys want to know about the exorcism of Roland Doe? You do. You do. Go ahead now and tell you I apologize for the continuity issues. As somebody who has OCD, I can understand if you're frustrated. But please stick with me. I've been in a training all week, and I'm in and out of training, and I'm having to take breaks here and there, cut this video into pieces, do it at different times. I know. So it's much, much later, and I was rewatching some of the videos as I'm editing. Look at my nun doll. I just feel like she has been staring me down. It is uncanny. Her head is not turned. It's awkward. I was gonna turn her into the nun from The Conjuring. I got her at a thrift store. Like, just one day with her and looking into her eyes, I just felt like it was not a good idea. But her name is Sister Mary Agatha. I don't know why I chose that name. I think she chose that name. But anyway, she's looking at me more like her name is Sister Mary Nagatha. I'm just, before we get started really good on the story, I want to look up signs of demon possession really quick. So just give me a second. Demonic possession. Here we go. Okay, I've pulled up signs of demonic possession. I'm gonna read these. Let's see. Contortions. Paranormal capabilities. That's not a good definition. That's too broad. Supernatural strength. It's too broad. Knowledge of previously unknown languages. It's too broad. Unnatural body movements. It's too broad. Speaking in tongues. That's too broad. Like, they're not giving enough specifics. This could be anything. Insults. Blasphemies. Wounds that vanish as quickly as they appear. Thinking oneself possessed. Leading a wicked life. Living outside the rules of society. Being persistently ill. Falling into heavy sleep and vomiting strange objects. Define strange, though. Making a pact with the devil. I mean, yeah, I'd say that would do it. Being troubled by spirits. Being tired of living. Being uncomfortable, ugly, and violent. Is that being uncomfortable, ugly, and violent one written into stone, though? I mean, I'm asking for a friend, not for myself. This part isn't being filmed at the same time as the other parts. What's different is that I washed my hair. I told you guys it's been a rough week, okay? And I couldn't do them all. But I did put on the same outfit. I have been in and out of this outfit more times than a stripper at Swingin' Dicks. I gotta do this. I gotta finish this video like now, tonight, or I'm gonna run out of steam, and I can't do that because it's too good. Alright, so back to the program. Alright, so let's go back to 1949 and let's talk about the exorcism of Roland Doe. He was only 14, guys. Roland Doe is not his real name. As you can tell by the last name, it's an alias. Even if I knew his real name, I probably wouldn't tell you, because he's probably, well, actually, no, not probably. There's a small chance that he's still alive, and he has not wanted this situation to ever be linked back to the real him. You gotta respect that. Roland was just your average child, mediocre, as we all were at that age. And Roland was really close to his Aunt Harriet. And his Aunt Harriet was a spiritualist. And she taught him how to use the Ouija board to communicate with spirits. Yeah. I mean, I can't really say anything. I have one. I use it sometimes. But in all honesty, that's probably where his problem started. If I had to put money on it. Hey, can you hand me that book? Yeah, the big one, the really thick one. Yeah, that one right there. Thank you. Hold on a second, I'm just seeing if it's in my big book of no-nos. It's there. Things not to do. Using a Ouija board. Yeah, it's there. Thank you. When Roland's Aunt Harriet died, Roland was really upset. His aunt had lived with him, and she had been a really close influence on his life, and he was attached to her. And so when she died, it really took an emotional toll on Roland. Remember what I told you about those sneaky demons? They're crafty, and they love to come in there when you're going through a hard time. That's why you never tell a demon that you're going through a hard time. Even if your house is burning down in the background. If that demon asks you how you're doing, you better put your big girl panties on and say, fine. That's the truth. So I'm going to take this chance to go on a little bit of a rant and let you know not to stereotype, because every religion I've studied has some form of possession and some form of exorcism or deliverance from that possession. If you grew up Baptist and you've been baptized, guess what? You've been exorcised. If you've moved into a new house and had your house blessed, you've been exorcised. That's what it is. I'm not lying. I'm not making it up. This is the truth. I got baptized like 7 times. You get an exorcism, you get an exorcism, everybody gets an exorcism! Roland starts having a really hard time. He's really upset. I'd be upset too. And so he starts trying to use the Ouija board as a way to contact his aunt. That's how it always starts. How it always starts. I can't even say anything because I have one sitting right over there and I've used it and seen some results. It's weird. I know. I'm a confusing person. A woman of science and parascience. Anyway, so after Aunt Harriet died, Roland was trying to use the Ouija board to get in touch with her. And then things started happening, like strange noises, croaks and groans, and the house making weird sounds at night, and things in the walls, which I would expect from a New England home. I'd be more concerned if those things weren't happening in a New England home. Roland started becoming withdrawn and really distant, and marks and injuries started to show up on his body that his family didn't feel like he had made himself. And of course, no possession is complete without the obligatory photos of Jesus flying off the walls. It's a rule. It's a rule. It's in the book somewhere. Pretty sure. Catholic Church won't let me see it, but I'm pretty sure it's in the book. Losing his Aunt Harriet was truly traumatizing on young Roland. It was his first true brush with death, and as someone who has a very intense phobia of death, not because I'm worried about myself dying, but because of my loved ones, seeing them die, I can understand how traumatic this had to be for him. This had to cause depression, anxiety. He probably felt a lot of anger. All these are emotions that people who mourn are going through. So the stage that we're seeing right now is the infestation stage. By trying to contact Harriet on that Ouija board, Roland kicked this thing off. Roland probably had no idea what he was doing. It's not like he was trying to get possessed. He just wanted to talk to his aunt. So then, not only are we hearing the scratchings in the walls, okay, Roland starts to develop wounds on his body that his family can't figure out where he's getting them from. He doesn't remember getting them, and he says he's not doing it to himself. Well, then it goes from kind of bad to bad. The furniture in the house starts moving, but only when Roland is around it. I would have to make Roland stay in his own room. I'm sorry, Roland. I don't have the time for the devil. Anyways, furniture would move. Wounds would show up on his body. He started feeling very negatively towards the church. They were a Lutheran family, and they went to church quite often. So they finally talk to their Lutheran minister, and he has no answers for them. So he actually refers them to some Catholic priests that he knows. And at this point, they're willing to try anything, because Roland, something's not right. I can't get a ton of info on everything he was doing, but they just knew this was not their son. So then they take the Lutheran minister up on his word, and they get in touch with the Catholic Church. And I've said it plenty of times, an exorcism is not something that is easy to get. You have to provide proof, like indisputable proof, and then it's all done under complete secrecy. But it's reverse psychology. It's reverse psychology. If you tell me something's secret, the more I want to know about it. I'm not God, I don't make the rules. So it takes a couple months, but the Catholic Church finally says, okay, Roland Doe needs an exorcism. We have enough evidence to convince us. I don't know what evidence was sent in. Y'all know the Catholic Church keeps their lips sealed. It would be easier for a virgin to get pregnant in this day and age than to get the Catholic Church to tell you shit. And no offense to the Catholic Church. All churches are shady. And that was really just a joke. Everybody should have the freedom to worship who they want to or not worship. It's up to you. I'm just making jokes. Don't take it personal. So the Exorcist and their assistants, along with some medical crew like doctors and nurses, took Roland Doe to the Georgetown Hospital. And that is where they attempted his first exorcism, which did not go well according to the people who were there. I have no testimony from Roland Doe, so I'm just telling you the story like it was put out there. So they're doing the exorcism. They're reading from the Ritual Romanum, the book for exorcism. And Roland's arms and legs are like cuffed to the bed for his own safety because he had been getting violent. Well, I don't know how it happened. I was not there. But the priest who was said that somehow Roland got out of his restraint. He pulled the mattress spring out of the bed. No big deal, right? Then he sliced open the priest's arm. At first I was like, that doesn't sound too bad. That priest had to get 100 stitches. 100 damn stitches. And Roland was saying some pretty obscene things, and he was also like using things against the priest that the priest hadn't told anyone. Tricky damn demons. Can't trust one of them. The word gets scratched into Roland Doe's flesh, allegedly while his hands are tied. It just says Lewis. I don't know how they came to the rational conclusion that they needed to go to St. Louis to do the exorcism. Do you really think a demon would tell you where to go to have him expelled? they're smarter than that. Might even be smarter than the priest in this scenario at this point. Well, the priests get in touch with the family that Roland has in St. Louis, and they're like, hey, can we do an exorcism there? Do you guys know anybody who is Catholic? I mean, I'm sure the conversation didn't go down like that, but I'm just abbreviating it. And so Roland's cousin was like, as a matter of fact, I go to a Catholic college. Let me hook you up with my priest. So the cousin talks to their priest, and they climb on board the exorcism train. So the Catholic priest that the cousin recommended, bless her little soul, there's two of them. They go see Roland and apparently see all the scratches on his body, the knowledge that he should not have any idea of. He's screaming obscenities. He is like contorting. He's basically foaming at the mouth. It sounds like a regular 14-year-old to me, but so the priest that is now helping the family, that was introduced to them by the cousin, he's starting to pick up on some behavioral patterns here. He notices that during the day, Roland's little demon is very, very quiet. But then at night, right before bedtime, his demon just comes alive, kicking and screaming. The priest did say he saw objects flying around through the room, and that the boy would react rather violently to any kind of holy relics. Remember what I told you about that from Amityville? It's called religious provocation. You do not do that unless you are... Now, for some reason, it is recognized as universal demonic law that a demon cannot possess you unless you invite it in. I am not an expert on possessions, but I do have an expert with me, and he's going to talk to us about how this is bullshit. This is Erica with breaking news. I am standing here with expert soul stealer Charles Lee Ray, aka Chucky. Mr. Ray, we hear that you are an expert in the stealing of souls. You know all about permission and consent. Is that right?
Yeah, man, that's completely correct.
So let me ask you something. There's this story that a demon needs consent to possess a human body. But then they turn around and say that the person might not know they're giving consent. What do you think about that?
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't ever ask for consent. When I obey Due Dumbledore, I get what I want. If you don't know you're giving consent, then it's not consent. Plain and simple.
What about consent for minors? Children under the age of 18 who get demonically possessed.
Minors can't give consent.
There you have it, folks. Children cannot consent to demonic possession. If a child cannot consent to sexual relations, they cannot consent knowingly or unknowingly to possession. And to add more to that, it's not consent if you don't know you're giving consent. So there we go. Breaking news. What does this mean? Why, demons are shady. Very shady. It should be no surprise to any of you. Now, they were not successful in their exorcism. Well, the priests get in touch with the family that Roland has in St. Louis, and they're like, hey, can we do an exorcism there? Do you guys know anybody who is Catholic? I mean, I'm sure the conversation didn't go down like that, but I'm just abbreviating it. And so Roland's cousin was like, as a matter of fact, I go to a Catholic college. Let me hook you up with my priest. So the cousin talks to their priest, and they climb on board the exorcism train. Months go by. Why? Because if you're doing an exorcism, you have to prepare yourself. You can't go in there talking smack to the devil when you've got skeletons in your own closet. No. So it takes days, months to center yourself, to mentally prepare, to spiritually prepare, to physically prepare. And during that time, the family did get medical second opinions on Roland, and again, nothing could be found that was wrong with him. Now, I'm not trying to say that the boy is not or was not possessed. I'm just going to say that just because the doctors couldn't find anything wrong with him in 1949 does not mean there was not something physically or psychologically wrong with him. Science was very crude, especially about mental disorders at that time, and often mental disorders were falsely tagged as a possession. So they haul poor little Roland Doe to St. Louis, and two of the priests from his cousin's college are coming to observe him, where they say they witnessed the same kind of stuff that happened in Maryland. The scratching of things into the skin, the levitation, the violence, furniture moving, speaking in languages. I need to know, what about the biggest symptom? Did he have the biggest symptom? Was he uncomfortable, ugly, and violent? That's all you have to know. If he was any of those things right there, he's possessed. Now, these new priests on the team also start to notice there's a pattern to Roland's behavior, though. Roland was peaceful as a lamb during the day, almost catatonic. And then at night is when he would start having these wild fits, and all the demonic behavior would come out. They're gonna ruin nighttime for everybody, I swear to God. So the priests who are observing Roland, they notice the pattern with the demonic activity is usually at night. And then Roland gets a giant X carved into his stomach from within. The priests take this as meaning there's 10 demons inside of him. Roland's symptoms get worse. He starts urinating and defecating on the bed. He starts screaming blasphemies and obscenities. And at this point, Roland's parents were like, enough. Good for Roland's parents, but they were like, enough. So they took him to the Alexian Psychiatric Hospital in St. Louis for more serious treatment. Now, at this psychiatric hospital, even though it was a good thing of Roland's parents to do, Roland's behavior just intensifies, and the Catholic priests say that, we got to get in there. We've got to get the demons out of this kid. So what they do is they talk to the doctors and the nurses at the hospital, and they set off an entire ward to do this exorcism. They don't want any other patients around. They have a room that they've prepared to do the exorcism in as well. So the priests start staying up night and day with the boy doing the exorcism rites. Roland's laying on his bed or cot or whatever the hell it is they have him chained to, and he's screaming, "Satan will always be with me," in a guttural voice. And he responds really badly to crucifixes or any other religious paraphernalia. Provocation, we talked about it. But listen, apparently this demon's a wuss. I don't know what its breaking point was. You've held on this long, bro. Now you're gonna give up? Now you're gonna give up? I think he just gave up because he was bored. Anyways, the demon was like, okay, I'm out of here. Bye. Or the 10 demons, however many there were. They were just like, peace out. And Roland sits straight up in bed. And he says the first coherent thing he's said in months, which is, he's gone. It's over. Again. Like, I don't know what the final line was for these demons. Do you think I'm gonna work that hard for something for that long just to walk away from it? No, I'm not. But again, he could have just been bored. But again, he could have been playing possum. If I were a demon, I'd say I was gone, but really I'd be there. I'd be there and I'd be lurking, but they'd all think I was fine. That's what I would do if I was a demon. Can't exorcise you if they don't know you're still there. It's the truth. Also, I don't know what it is with demons and kids. If I was a demon, I'm not going to pick someone who is completely dependent upon bigger people for life. Like, if I'm going to be a demon, I want to be able to drive. I want to be able to get into clubs. I want to be able to do stuff that adults do, but on a different demon level. It's just no fun when you have defects chasing you around at the age of 14 because you're demonically possessed and they're just ruining all your damn fun. So that is the anticlimactic ending to the exorcism of Roland Doe. But how was this made public? Because Roland's name was sealed. The notes for this case were sealed. Roland did not want to be known. His family did not want to be known. And Roland's quite possibly still alive to this day. He'd be in his 80s, but he never wanted this kind of attention. And the one time someone did get in touch with him, he hung up the phone on him. Good for you, Roland. He grew up to have wife and kids and apparently was a man of faith. Like I said, though, if I was a demon, I'd still be lurking. That could be camouflage. Again, how did the story get out? Well, it was mentioned here and there in a couple of newspapers about priests trying to perform an exorcism. It was vague, though. Very vague. Like I said, secrecy. Well, there was one priest, though, the one that was from the cousin's college. He was an academic, and he's like me. He kept notes on everything. Every day he would take notes on what the hell this demon was up to today. He kept very great, detailed records. But when the exorcism was over, he left the book there. Oops. If the demons don't get you, the carelessness will. Now, when these records were found and the story started getting pieced together, William Peter Blatty came along and he reached out to the man who took the notes, the priest, and he talked to him about wanting to make a book. And the priest said no. He said, I am required to be discreet, and I feel like going back and harping on this would only upset the boy and re-traumatize him. So no, I don't want to do a book. Good for you. I respect that. William Peter Blatty talked to a couple of other priests. But here's the weird thing. Some of them would say things like, yeah, he was definitely possessed. And then others were like, I didn't get enough evidence to call him possessed. One of the priests said that Roland had been a very spoiled, temperamental child in the first place. But let me just say, if I'm gonna throw a fit to get my way, at 14, it's not gonna be the kind of fit where they have to tie me up for months and months and months and read the Bible to me. No, there are better ways to throw fits. So if he was a willful, temperamental teenager and was throwing a fit, he picked a hell of a bad one to pull. Now, just to throw some stuff from the other side of the coin in here, we can talk about medical explanations. I'm not saying the boy was not possessed. I'm just looking at the other side of the coin because that's what I do. how else would I instigate if I didn't know both sides of the story? So, the Latin, the child speaking Latin, could have been him just mimicking words that he'd heard the priest say during the exorcism. There was actually no proof that the boy made the scratches on himself other than the testimony of the priest. Nobody ever looked under his fingernails, and apparently some of them said he really wasn't tied down that tight. Other explanations are that he was just a little jerk. But I already covered that part. Yeah. Before the end of the exorcism, he had started having seizures. I forgot that. He had started having seizures too, so there's quite possibly, even though at the time they said nothing was wrong with him, like I said, science was crude. He could have had a physical or mental illness going on, and it could have caused this behavior. But again, I'm not saying it didn't happen. But we will never truly know, because all of the priests and the assistants who worked on this are dead, natural causes, and we do not know Roland's identity. And he could be dead too. So truly only the people who were there know if it's true or not. But I just think it's interesting that all these people could see the same thing and come out with a different type of reality. For example, doctors and nurses, they are trained to look at this from a medical standpoint. So therefore, they're going to look at it from a medical standpoint. Religious people, the clergy, priests, all of that thing, they are taught to look at it from a biblical standpoint, from a religious standpoint. So that's where they go in looking at it from. And then you have the expectations of the family and the child. It's just really wild. It's just really wild that one event could have so many different ways of looking at it. So that is the exorcism of Roland Doe. He did not spin his head all the way around on his neck like Linda Blair did. That was made up. And he did not vomit split pea soup on people that I know of. Who knows? Now, the book The Exorcist went on to be a bestseller. The movie was a bestseller. But the movie has a lot of superstition that goes along with it as well. The movie is considered cursed because of all the bad things that happened to the cast and crew. Now again, this could be coincidence. I'm just saying. But I won't go deeper into that because I don't really dig the cursed movies theme. I don't know though. I don't know. I do not know what I'm going to be covering next week yet. This took a long time. Thanks for sitting with me. I think we're done. Is Agatha Christie still looking at me? Yeah.